Naivasha, Kamiti, Shimo La Tewa, and all those jails and prisons. The torture chambers that used to be physical at Nyayo and Nyati House are now happening, and our young people are being thrown into swamps. But I don't want to talk about myself today. I want to answer only one question that you've asked. What is different between the struggles that we have been in and this one? Because I think that's something that has been missed in all the conversations I've listened to. And my answer is this. This is the only generation which has refused to be used. The only generation which has refused to be used. And I want to use that to bring the struggles. The Mau Mau, Muthoni Nyanjiro was the mother of the Mau Mau. If you look at it, the Mau Mau were used. They died, they were deprived of land, they were kept in cells and in jails. Dedan Kimathi died, but they were used by the home guards, the Kenyatta, the Jomo Kenyattas and the home guards who took over power. Then the second liberation, which we died for, went to jail for, to bring back Section 2A. We were again used. The people who took over power were not the people who were in the fight. Then comes the Kenya Constitution 2010, which the likes of Osieno and myself and all of us in Jokia invested our lives in. Who is the beneficiary of the Constitution of Kenya 2010? William Ruto. The one who said no is the one who is the president. Uhuru Kenyatta, who was against the Constitution, and Rigathi Gachagua are the people who are the beneficiaries of the Constitution. Again, we were used. This is the only generation since Kenya was established as a colony. Kenya became independent. We only have one generation which has refused to say, which has said, you are not going to use us. Raila every time uses dead young people in the streets to negotiate handshakes. 2007, the numbers who died 1,000, by the way, the number was more than 7,600, but we used the number that the government gave us. Then we went into handshake. Comes 2017, hundreds are killed. Power is shared. Then we come to 2022. Last year you saw 75 died. They were used to form NADCO. The young people are saying there is not going to be another dialogue where you are going to use our deaths to gain power. So I have to give it to these Gen Zs, I have to give it to them, that they have stopped something tragic, treacherous that has been going on about Kenya, and this generation has said no more using our blood, our sweat and our tears to negotiate power.
Thank you so much, Cyprian. Dr. Njoki, rallying on the conversation here, the journey, what is your perspective?
Just something, and thank you, I'm glad we are talking about the journey, because the last 3 weeks, if you even try and get into any of these spaces, it's impossible. You don't have 100,000 followers to speak. So I'm happy we are here acknowledging also the journey. So, and we can look at it in 3 phases. Of course, before independence, Mau Mau and all the rest, like Muthoni Nyanjiro from 1922. Mau Mau is our DNA. Resistance is our DNA, right? Don't ever forget that. For us Kenyans, only 2 countries resisted the British or the French violently before 1970. Later we had the Portuguese resisting. But before 1970, there were only 2 countries, and one was Kenya, and the other one is which one? You know, I'm a teacher. Yes. Algeria.
Yes.
The liberation front in Algeria. In Africa is only those 2 countries. So, and it's because of the Mau Mau, and you know the guerrilla warfare that they fought. So resistance is our DNA. And with that, of course, even post-independence, people resisted the fascist state that Kenyatta, because many times we are just looking at this Ruto. We are forgetting the mistake started from Jomo Kenyatta, because he instituted a very fascist state. You know the many deaths that are still unresolved. And this politics of let's forget and move on is what got us where we are. A country where impunity is our DNA now. Right? And so we need to look at that past from Kenyatta, the mistakes he made, and especially in setting up the structures of Kenya. Look at Tanzania with all its problems. Tanzania is doing much, much better in terms of politics. Kenya, we keep bragging about our economy. So what? The economy, if you don't have your rights, those chapter 4, the Bill of Rights, not just the what do you call it, social and political rights, but also the economic rights. But the social and political rights are the foundation that offer you the space to demand for the others. And the social and political rights, which are enshrined in chapter 4, they should be protected. We already have them. And that's why we are saying, for me, I'm saying, let's not get excited with his changing ministers, because they'll still come back. We should be looking at chapter 4 and chapter 6. Chapter 4, our rights. Our people have been killed. Young people have been killed. These universities where I also teach, they're quiet. You know, so till we have justice, till we have the killer cops arrested, till Koome is gone, you know, and those are some of the things we are saying must change. Then we can deal with, as we deal with the rest of everything. But having said that, it's a good moment. I think Gen Z is probably now what we can call the third liberation. This is I think we've now entered the third liberation. And the second liberation, and I'm glad we are here in this hall. Those of us who don't know, this hall is a very important hall, Ufungamano. And Cyprian is here. I've seen many other comrades who are there those days during the IPPG reforms and NCC especially, and the National Convention on
National Convention Assembly Executive
Exactly. That's where the Constitution of Kenya was changed, and Section 2A was repealed, and that's where we can tell off Zakayo and anybody else about why, because we fought for that constitution, and it's really sad that we have to keep fighting. That's why we need to have the right people in power, so that we are not fighting, so that it's people who also think like us, people who know human rights is part of state making. And I'm very glad, because that second liberation, first liberation was the Mau Mau and what they did, and the people who liberated Kenya. Remember, you need to also know who liberated Kenya, because the challenge is opportunists took over the real liberators like Dedan Kimathi. Second liberation, it is those people who fought for the second liberation of this country and the return of and who helped us get the constitution. And some of them are here. Please wave, because we need to acknowledge you. Please wave. I've seen some people, second liberation, Kegoro there, Unanyamaza too. You know, thank you, comrade. Because we have to, many of us, especially the new Gen Z activists, we are forgetting the journey. When you get that pace, remember this is a marathon. People have died, people have been there. What do we call them?
Social justice.
The social justice centers have been killed on the streets, have been walking in these streets. Kina Mama Rahma, please, let's wave also. Let's acknowledge these people, you know, and all the social justice activists, Olal, Viva comrades. These are the people who have brought us to this moment. So let's not look at it as it's 3 weeks old. Now, we must always carry that journey. And when you're given to that opportunity, remember those people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's tweak the conversation a little bit, and let's talk about the journey when we look at police accountability and brutality. Of course, police have been there throughout the journey in terms of the first liberation, as Dr. talked about. But with the new Constitution 2010, there was different expectation in terms of how they would engage the protesters. So Otsero, take us through how the journey has been, and how do we make police accountable?
Thank you. My name, I'm called Otieno Namwaya. I work with the Human Rights Watch, but I will also speak more broadly because I've been an activist since the 90s. First of all, I think last week or early this week, I heard somebody say in Parliament, I think it was Danson Mugatana, that this is the third liberation. The second liberation there was in the 90s, and then there was the independence struggle. And I think it is broadly true, but I have a different thinking, because the second liberation in reality aborted. Picking up from what Dr. has said here, it aborted because if you look at some of the discussions we're having here, they were the same discussions, partly the same discussions we were having in the 90s. The issue of the portrait of William Ruto. I remember sometime, I think 1997, we were the Gen Zs then, we were called Generation X. We had in this same spot, Cyprian, correct me, but we were wondering, why do we have Moi's portrait everywhere? And that we need to stop that. That's part of imperialism. So having said that, that struggle, second liberation struggle picked up from independence struggle, which a lot of people believe that the independence struggle aborted and died with the death of Dedan Kimathi in 1957. If you look at movements such as FERA, which is February 18th Revolutionary Army or Stock Movement, which was with people like Akina, Brigadier Odongo, Raphael Wangondu, and the rest, their reasoning even for naming it FERA was that we aborted the struggle in 1957, we need to pick it from where we aborted it. That was 1957, that's why it's called February 18th Revolutionary Army. Dedan Kimathi was killed on February 18th, 1957. So it is part of the long struggle. So picking it up from there, I was supposed to talk about police accountability. I don't want to go into details of repeating some of the things that some of the speakers who are here in the morning had already spoken about. I want to basically flesh out some of the worrying trends that we have noticed for the last maybe 7 years that we need to be really worrying about and calling out the authorities for what is happening. Let me talk about IPOA a bit. IPOA was basically created by the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and then operationalized by the 2011 law, IPOA Act of 2011. But it came effectively into operation in 2012 when they were constituted, and then they started setting up in 2013. By 2013, we had a lot of hopes. They had just 6 investigators. But they could try to reach everywhere. They would be in Kisumu, they would be in Nairobi, they would be where? They were just 6. Right now, IPOA has approximately 100 investigators. But what do? If you look at their case success rate from 2013 to now, how many cases have they successfully prosecuted? How many? I think about 12, if I'm not wrong. I think about 12 or 13 cases. How many cases have been filed with them? At some point, IPOA used to post these details on their website. They no longer do that. Why? Because if you look at the cases that have been filed with IPOA, by around 2018, 2019, there were around 7,000 cases of police brutality and police misuse of power and all that. How many could they investigate? There are about 100, maybe 1,000 up to 2022. How many have they successfully prosecuted? About 22. However, the details, those details don't tell you the problem with IPOA right now. IPOA was initially in the thinking of the 2010 Constitution and the second liberation, the issues we had, especially after the 2007 elections and the killings by police, was that we need a civilian institution where people can walk in and report police abuses, so that people don't have to go to a police station to report cases to be investigated by the same police officers who have committed the offenses. So it was created as a civilian institution. It was supposed to be friendly, welcoming, understanding, transparent. But what has happened today, if you look at IPOA, it has transformed itself. It has become more like a police institution. So it's no longer transparent. Those cases they used to post on their website showing how many have come and which ones are killings, which ones are torture, they no longer post that. Then the other is that they are no longer acting like they are civilian. They are more interested in parleying with the police and being called to State House than actually opening their doors for the civilians to report cases. And then the issue of their performance, I know people will celebrate. We have IPOA because 12 police officers have been prosecuted, they have been sent to jail. But there's nothing to celebrate. If you look at the number of killings we have had since IPOA came into place in 2013, they cherry pick cases. So if there's a police officer who has killed somebody in Kangware and there's pressure, the government is also worried or embarrassed, they go and investigate and prosecute that one. But killings such as what is going on today during protests, we have never had IPOA prosecute officers for killings during protests because those are state-sanctioned killings. So in 2017, there were over 100 cases we documented. I think there were more, but we documented 104. IPOA has focused on two, Baby Pendo and Stephanie Mora, cherry picking what they can prosecute because these are low-hanging fruits, but they don't go to the bottom, the root cause or the root cause of the problem. So out of 100 plus, they picked two and they never even successfully prosecuted. People are having to go and prosecute them on their own. Between 2014 and 2015, there were over 100 people who had disappeared in Nairobi, Northeastern, Coast Region. We presented these cases to IPOA. To this day, they have never prosecuted any. In 2020, during Corona, there were over 20 cases. I don't know how many have been prosecuted. Last year, there were over 70. They promised to take people to court. I think by October, they were saying they are going to court. Nobody has been prosecuted. This one is going to go the same way. So even if IPOA, in fact, their behavior this time has been more strange because before then, we used to communicate with them, we used to know what they are doing. Right now, they have shut their doors. They don't want to say what they are doing. We need to start calling out IPOA. That's one. The second one, I'd ask for more time, if you don't mind.
If you could hold on, we could come back in terms of now what needs to be done to ensure the accountability.
I'm trying to flesh out. So what needs to be done in the terms of IPOA is to begin to call for more accountability, more transparency for IPOA.
Okay.
If you allow me to just go through the 3 points.
Okay.
So the other worrying trend is when it comes to accountability, especially where there are killings like what we have now, police are refusing to do their bit. So the National Police Service Act of 2011 says that police, as 2012 I think, police are supposed to, once there's a killing, police are supposed to do preliminary investigations. The commander is supposed to share details of that investigation with IPOA, with the Inspector General. Then IPOA picks up from there to start investigation. That preliminary investigation never happens. So IPOA has to start struggling to understand which police officer shot, what happened, what were the circumstances of the shooting. That should have been in the preliminary report. And then the second thing is that when killings happen in a setting like what we have today, the demonstrations and the protests, what is supposed to guide IPOA in investigating those cases is what is called the operational order, which is basically says which police were deployed where and which orders were they given. And then the second one is what is called the register of movement of arms and ammunition, which basically gives you narrows down when somebody is killed to understand who had which ammunition, who had which gun, and who was where. So when the investigations come, like in Kisumu, a lot of the killings that happened in 2017, police refused to hand over the register of movement of arms and ammunition. Police refused to hand over the operational order. So it became impossible to understand who shot where, but they're covering themselves up. But they only do that because of lack of political will. What they're doing is political. It's a political order to kill. So what's the problem there? it is lack of police independence. And it takes us back to the struggle of the second struggle, which was to ensure we have an independent police authority. And then the other is the issue of the new trend that we have seen from 2017 is the role of the hospitals and mortuaries. So in the past, you would go to a hospital and a mortuary, and quickly you get the register and get to know who has been brought in, who was shot, who was killed, and then you get to know their names and you get to know their injuries. Today, what they are doing is that they have created 2 registers. And that's why I was cautioning our colleagues in Githurai, don't say you have only 2 or 3 killings, because you don't know the killings. Or we went to Kenyatta Hospital and we found 3 bodies. You need to do more to understand how many people have been killed. Right now I'm hearing people say 50 people have been killed. It's not 50. You don't know. Because what's happening in mortuaries is that they create 2 registers. So the front one is the normal one, where they put like 3 or 4 cases. So when you go to look for people who have been killed, they show you that one. But there's another police register, where they have all the other bodies. So after 25th, the invasion of Parliament, at City Mortuary they had 6 bodies. And we're wondering, but how can they be 6? When even at Parliament alone, we know that at least 8 were killed. And they refused, they just said 6. Later on, we came back and talked to the staff, and we realized there were other bodies being hidden elsewhere which were not in the register. And that is happening not just there, we saw it in Kisumu in 2017. They hide those bodies, and they make sure you never get to know what exactly happened. We also know that sometimes they don't take those bodies to the mortuaries. In Kisumu, we discovered bodies, I think bodies were discovered in Lake Victoria, around 26 bodies, 3 or 4 months later, after we had looked for bodies in JHRH, in Kisumu District Hospital, everywhere. There were no bodies, but they had been thrown elsewhere. Even this one, let us be very careful, because we don't know where those bodies are.
Thank you so much for that. Going back to Boni, you spoke about the opposition wanting to take this civic engagement that we've seen in Kenya for the last 4 weeks. What is your reaction? Do you feel they're bringing back the political rhetorics and reaping where it's not so?
It's a betrayal of the people. So one of the constant factors in the last 20 years has been Raila Odinga. He shook hands with Moi, shook hands with Kibaki, shook hands with Uhuru. Now he's doing that with Ruto. But every time he does that, he betrays everyone who was involved in the movement. I covered post-election violence in 2007, and the victims were never compensated. I heard Cyprian say the number was like 7,000 people died, but the government claims about 1,200 people died. But there was no compensation and there was no justice. And the difference between that time and this movement is that one of the things that people are saying in the streets is that we must have accountability, and we must have justice, and we must have reparations. So we must compensate the people who have been killed by the police, and we must get the killer cops to be arrested. On Tuesday, we're going back to the streets to demand Koome to resign. But if you look at Raila Odinga, he has never demanded for those things. Every time he shakes hands and gets a deal, he doesn't talk about compensation for lives or justice for the victims. He moves on. He's a mercenary, actually. Basically, that's what Raila has become over the years. So yesterday I was in a space with his son, and I told him, go and tell your father not to betray his grandkids. Because basically the guys in the streets are actually his grandkids. I can be Raila Odinga's son because I'm the same age with Raila Jr. But the people who are protesting and leading this protest are 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids. And they're saying, we got this. So I'm just telling the politicians, lay off these demonstrations and protests, let these people articulate their own issues. And the thing about dialogue, how do you go dialogue with politicians and it's the kids in the streets? And all they're asking for is the upholding of the Constitution. There's no new ask by these young kids. They're not saying that start new laws, no, they're saying the existing laws work, implement the Constitution fully. That's where the fight is at. So our ask for everyone who is here and people who can talk to Raila Odinga and online and offline is tell him not to make this movement a barrier issue this weekend. Because what politicians do over the weekend, they go to churches and burials and try to set the agenda of the week. And what they're trying to do, when they do that, they're deflecting young people and make them keep off. Because the reason why they're in the streets, they're saying they're tribeless, they're partyless, and they're leaderless. But the moment someone is trying to set themselves as their leader, you just spoil everything. So I think it is in bad taste for someone who's not in the streets. In this particular, the last 3 weeks, and people have died to come in and try to speak on their behalf. Those kids know what they want, and they're saying very eloquently and loudly, let them speak for themselves.
Cyprian, from your perspective, you've been at it for long. Perhaps how does the protesters keep the momentum as it is and to ensure they're not divided by the politicians, because that can be a mechanism in which now it separates this?
Three things very quickly. The first thing is what Bonnie has spoken to. Be united around the issues, set the agenda, and what the Gen Zs have done is that they have published their agenda. That's the first thing you do if you want to remain united. That's very, very important, that the agenda is clear, you publish it, and you own it. They have even said that the leader is the issues. The issues are their leader. The second thing you do to keep a movement together is that you hold everybody accountable who is involved in the process and in the struggle. And the young people have managed to do things we were unable to do. I don't want to give you details, but let me tell you one story. In the year 2000, we were 1,500 of us here, and we only had 2 mobile phones, James Orengo and Munuve. And a priest, a reverend, I don't want to name him today, asked for Munuve's handset. He didn't know, don't name them. And he went out there to speak, but he did not know how to operate the mobile phone. But it was State House which was speaking to him. So when Munuve was given back his phone, he realized that it is State House which had been speaking to the convener of the meeting. That's why I didn't want to name him. And so you have to ensure that the infiltrators do not divide you. And that's why I'm really saying kudos to Gen Zs, because they have identified the infiltrators and they have ensured that they are flashing them out. That is extremely important. People should know, and what you've done, what they have done is really powerful, because they have even moved out of people's YouTube and whatever, so that they pay the price. Which some of these things, we didn't have these things in our days. Finally, which is what I want to really speak to, the Gen Zs do not know how to deal with it. You are never going to go to the streets and you are not infiltrated physically. So in NCEC, in our struggles in NCEC, we established the self-defense teams, the self-defense forces around active nonviolence as the principle. So you need to train 500 to 1,000 young people who are responsible for shielding and protecting and identifying and recording, to ensure that you are not infiltrated by people who are agent provocateurs, who break people's shops and burn people's vehicles, and then it is blamed on you.
Thank you so much, Cyprian. Before I come to you, Dr. Njoki, I'm told we have Professor Kivutha Kibwana, former governor from Yes, correct. So if we could have him, please, Professor, the floor is yours.
Hello?
Thank you so much, Prof. Please carry on.
Okay, first of all, I really want to, put my hat off for these young people, the Gen Zs, who have done something one can equal to the Mau Mau of the 50s, not even the NCA, NCC struggle of the 90s, and this is huge. And following mambo wanafanya kidogo kama mtafiti, I can see that they have realized that hii system ya ukoloni na ukoloni mamboleo mpaka ichenjiwe kutoka kwa roots. And I think that's the biggest thing that I have, seen from the struggles and from their work. Ndio tuwe na system mpya which is an identical twin to the 2010 constitution. Na jinsi ilisemekana hapo awali, nafikiri ni Houghton, somebody said this, ni kazi ngumu na ni marathon, so that people don't think it's a quick fix. Na ndio nimesikia mkisema kwamba system ichenjiwe, personnel kabisa pia iwe ni personnel mpya na values mpya na norms mpya, alafu eternal accountability, kila wakati muwe mnafuata. Na ndipo ninaweza kuuliza Law Society na wale wahusika wengine pamoja na Gen Zs wenyewe, ikiwa katiba inaweza kutranslatiwa hata even in those brief ways, kila lugha ya Kenya, na ndio najua kuna moja imetranslatiwa kwa Kiswahili, ndio iwe kwamba people now will learn the constitution. And you Gen Zs, please get into the wards, get into the rural areas, make sure that up to the ward and all those WhatsApps which are there in the rural areas, make sure that the message that you have gets there. And of course, this concretization of your demands, so that nobody, will be able to say we don't know what they want, because no public decision without Gen Zs. So that those who are calling for dialogue, whatever it is, to be known that there should be no public decision without Gen Zs. I think that becomes very, very, very important. And the Occupy movement, my understanding of this movement from watching, listening, and so on, is you occupy any institution, you occupy any space, so that you get out the old ideas, the old values, and then you infuse new values within that particular movement. So it's symbolic, and that's why the artists, the comedians, and so on, the energy they are bringing and the innovation they are bringing in terms of really trying to change our country is very, very important. Because before, comedians were saying, these are just people who make others laugh, but this is like the beauty of the Gen Z movement is it is functional leadership. If there is a job to be done, people are told do that, and they do that. It is not the hierarchical thing that the system wants, so that they can pinpoint who are the leaders that we can buy, or who can we actually replace their leadership with the functional leadership, with our own leadership, people that we ask to be leaders, so that they can derail the movement. And so please continue with that complexity. I don't know, and also like the social justice centers, they should go to the informal settlements and make sure that these people are being confused to be goons, to be told that the fight is bigger than being given 500 bob or 1,000 bob every day to do, things that are not correct. If there was 2 minutes, I could read a poem I wrote in 2021 for young people of Africa, but I don't know whether there is that time, because I know that many people want to speak. But Law Society, please continue with this Citizens Assembly, because this is important, and all those ex-space bunges, they are very, very, very important for the future of our country. I don't know that I would have 2 minutes to read a poem which I wrote for young people. If there is, yes. If not, another time.
Do we have the 2 minutes, Director? Please carry on, Professor. If you can shorten them.
I can do so.
Please do so, but if you can put it more tightly because of time. Prof, can you hear me?
Okay, then let me read it. Yeah, I can hear you. What? Yes? Hello?
Please repeat, Prof. I couldn't hear you.
I was asking if I have 2 minutes to read a poem
Please
which I
do
wrote
read.
in 2021 for the youth of Africa, Youth Seed.
Please go ahead. Prof, can you hear me?
Can I do so? Maybe somebody. Yeah, yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Yes, you can do so, please, kindly.
Okay. Youth Seed for the youth of Africa. If Africa is eclipsed by a dark continent, the sun to beam humankind's oasis of civilization is our swarming rays of youth. Some say Africa's youth is unschooled, restless, boisterous, uncouth high voltage. However, young people are the eternal reservoir for nourishing Africa's modernity. If the continent and our youth fail to enact a symbiotically binding social contract, we have entombed Africa alive. How many generations must we miscarry before we can procreate seminal life? In traditional Africa, when fire died from the earth, a child was sent to her neighbors to borrow fire. Mother Africa, you must dispatch your youth corps to retrieve fire from society's ashes so as to illuminate and warm Azania. The youth's essence are energy, inspiration, vitality, creativity, resilience must never again be hijacked. Young persons must renounce the culture of youth for hire. Instead of degrading itself in wild orgies, youth must turn healer. Its spirit must soak Africa, become the miracle remedy of our cancers, union of Africa's body and soul. Youth must gather its talents. Youth must conserve its latent force. Youth must own itself. Youth must purify itself. Youth must organize. Youth must mobilize. The world is the youth to subdue. Youth must command the world. The tremor of young people's power, which will smash Africa's barren past, which will reassemble Africa's majesty, is rumbling. Listen, prepare, give way. Victory is as certain as sunshine. Africa must endearingly embrace our youth. Youth must draw Africa to its loving heart. Africa must palaver with our youth. Youth must make conversation with youth. Youth must dialogue with Africa and the world. Africa must befriend our youth. Youth must reinvent love. Youth must proclaim we must live love. Youth must transform itself worthy heir of Africa's struggle tradition during its pilgrimage to Africa's bosom. Africa's youth must open its eyes to survey the panorama of opportunity as it prepares to awaken the snoring, lethargic proverbial giant. Africa's renaissance is youth renaissance. Africa's youth, the future is here. The future is the present. The future is now. Just to finalize, because it's long, youth must birth our Africa. Always remember, sacrifice, pleasure, pain, blood, and joy are companions of every noble birth. Youth of Africa, your Africa is waiting. Don't keep our people slaves any longer. Unchain their mind. Let them be truly free at last. Africa and your youth, where is your redemption anthem? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much for your perspectives there. Before we round up, I'd like to get closing remarks from Dr. Njoki, and then from Boni, and then Cyprian, and then Namwaya, correct. Do you think what the president has done is good enough in terms of ensuring there is accountability even as he forms the next cabinet?
For me, as somebody who researches politics, and I have researched Kenyan politics for long, I do not think there's so much more that can be done. Remember, these are politicians, people, and now that's what I was telling people on Twitter. It's nice, yes, we all wanted, of course, they get rid of the cabinet, but where are they going? Have you checked how much money they're still going home with? Has anybody even, well, no, if it was serious, they would have been told tomorrow morning report to the commission that researches corrupt, I mean, what do you mean, the corruption? EACC. Right? Nobody has been told to go to EACC and be investigated. So police reforms have not been done. For me, the first person to have been sacked should have been IG Koome and Adamson Bungei. Because, and police reforms, if there's a country that is desperate for police reforms, is Kenya. You know, and not just police reforms, the whole security sector reforms. In 2000 and after now, the new constitution, a lot of money was invested. Even the British, I know, they were leading in security sector reforms. What did security sector reforms do in Kenya? They were bought new uniform. Those days they never used to have those swanky knee pads and I don't know, all those maroon things they're wearing to protect themselves. They never had them. They used to show up in just wearing their uniform. So police reforms just bought them more equipment to harass citizens, right? So till police reform is done, and until we get an IG who believes in human rights. Remember the police training. Many of you, if you've ever talked to any police officer, they'll tell you, the first thing they are told, Raia ni adui yako. Can you imagine? Raia ni adui. And then when they're being trained there in Keganjo or in the GSU and Bakassi or wherever, they are given very also torturous and inhumane treatment in the training, and they are told, tunafanya hivi ili tutoe uraia ndani yako. Can you imagine? So how do you expect such a person to protect your rights? Right? That's why, even the other day I was in a government building and I had to talk to the police officer, and I'm so, you know, these days I'm just so pissed off even seeing them. And one of them, I asked them, but why did you people kill our young people? He said, tutaua tazaidi. That, the arrogance. So it is, and I was asking them, were you trained like that? You know, where does this thinking come from? So till we get a security sector that is reformed, and security sector is a long path, but the most visible is the police. You can hear we have problems. Inside the police, there's usually also an internal unit for investigating police, human rights violations, police course. And according to sources, because I've met some of those people, they'll tell you the current IG doesn't like human rights at all. So if there's a unit that has been frustrated, and maybe even that's why IPOA is behaving that way, is because of the frustration of the person at the top. Remember also, we are dealing with a president who has never been on the right side of human rights, ever. You know, everything he does is cosmetic. You know, and atakama, you know, even if a chameleon changes the color, the DNA remains. So till we get a president who respects human rights, because as I said, if chapter 4 of the Constitution, which is a Bill of Rights, is not respected, we cannot enjoy any other right. Those are the first degree human rights. And that's, you know, what we are saying, the freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. And that's why young people are all trying to go to Europe. Because there, you know, I can protest every day. If you go to France, Paris, even they have an, you know, the name for being on the strike is manifestation. French people in Paris, even every day there is a strike. Every day they are on the road. They are what do you call it? They are protesting. How many French people have been killed? Or have you heard about the killings? Only one, which was like 3 years ago. If you check even now on the internet, the French are always on the street. That's the country we want, a human rights state, a country where everybody's rights are respected, that you can wake up, you can go and protest like Rex Masai did, like Bisley Kogi, like David Shege, and you still go home and you feel that that's what we want. So for me, three things have to happen. Police reform. And so even now, if that hashtag of, what do you call it, Koome must go, Bungei must go, has to join, Ruto must go. We have a problem because the president has never believed in human rights, and that's the biggest problem. So when we have somebody at the top who doesn't believe in human rights, who doesn't believe in the constitution, because people can say a lot of rhetoric, look at the history. The history betrays them. So maybe they can change. I'm not saying they might not change. Hopefully, this generation, this third revolution, it's not actually a revolution. A revolution would need radical change of everything, like, you know, the French Revolution and others. But I hope we can have radical changes. We must, of course, I celebrate Gen Z. I celebrate millennials. Bonnie and I and many others, we are millennials. Gen X. These are our colleagues. So also this idea of exceptionalizing Gen Z is good, but remember all of us have been involved in this, and it's been a journey. This should actually be Okoa Kenya or Liberate Kenya movement, because all of us, we are tired and we want to liberate our country. This is the only country we have. I lived in the UK for 10 years. I came back because we want to change our country. So, and hatuendi pahali pengine, ni hapa tu, we are going to make this country those countries that we want, where human rights are respected. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Otsemo, coming to you. From your insights, clearly, IPOA has failed. How do we now ensure that even as an oversight body remains accountable to Kenyans in light of police brutality? Very few remarks.
I think the failure of IPOA should be seen or looked at in the broader context of the failure of the many accountability institutions that we created under the 2010 Constitution. IPOA was just one of them, and IPOA was to do the actual investigation and prosecution. But there was also the National Police Service Commission, and I think internally there was the Internal Police Affairs Unit, and then there is the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which is supposed to, actually its decisions are usually supposed to be at the level of the High Court. They can hold public inquests and pass decisions. So the problem is that I think we moved our feet on the pedal a bit, and the state took over, and these institutions have systematically been weakened, so we need to start reclaiming them, their independence. We need IPOA to work independently. We need the police to be able to be allowed to work independently without political interference. We need a National Police Service Commission to do what it was meant to do, because the law was changed and then they became something else. And we need all these institutions to be brought back to what they were initially supposed to be. Otherwise, without institutions working, look at Parliament, what's happening. It's just part of a deliberate attempt to weaken the institutions and recreate an imperial state that people fought up against in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bonnie, as we wind up, what are your closing remarks? And possibly when we look at governance, of course, there are many arms of government that are there and other institutions. From the role of judiciary, we've not had them coming out and even commenting in terms of what has been happening. As you close, what would you want maybe the judiciary to be very keen on, especially given the police brutality and what we've been seeing?
Wow. I don't think there's a police officer in jail for killing a peaceful protester. They rarely do that. I think one of the things that we blame the judiciary on is that they are independent, but they do not have the courage to jail big perpetrators. We look at Governor Obado and the case about Sharon that happened about 6-7 years ago, and a murder happened, but the man is still walking scot-free. And that same man has another case in court about corruption. So the man is actually a repeat offender. He shouldn't even have bail. So you realize that sometimes the judiciary says you're innocent until proven guilty, right? But in this country, you're guilty until proven rich, because rich people do not get the same laws that apply to poor people. My closing remarks is actually that if we could get people to do their work that they're paid to do, Kenya would be very, very far. Whether it's Koome in her role as a Chief Justice and the magistrate under her, the people in the police service, the people who work for the executive. The problem we have is that this country is run by one person, that's the president, and he calls the shots. So you find that a body like parliament is not independent. It's a rubber stamp for the executive. That's why when they passed the bill, they took it to State House to go, you pass your finance bill, it's here. And we need to teach those people who do that a lesson. The beauty of the past 3 weeks is because now we've taken back the power, we're going to set the rules and the tone on how they behave. So right now we're in control, so we can be able to say, these are expectations. I think the judiciary should be able to come and say, we're going to have, they actually have special courts on economic crimes, but can you have a case listened to and conclude within a year or 6 months? You have to realize the people who steal a lot of money are very powerful. And they learned something from Patney. Patney was able to buy the entire judiciary and the entire position when he stole Goldenberg. And by doing that, he made it easier for people who steal later on to steal enough to bribe everyone. I was just looking up about Anglo-Leasing because of the killings in Mukuru, because Kenya doesn't have a proper forensic lab. But 22 years ago, would have bought one with Anglo-Leasing money. Anglo-Leasing money was stolen. The thieves were never convicted, but guess who was found guilty for defamation? John Githongo, the whistleblower. So you see how injustice the justice system is. So my prayer is, as we reform this country, we get men and women of integrity like our President Japhet who can believe in and stand and say that if she's in that position, you're safe. And it's very, very important. So the Kenya we want, power. So the Kenya we want, as I conclude, I want the Kenya we want to have the Kenyans we want in that Kenya. Kenyans who believe in integrity and who stand up for their rights. We are standing up for our rights. May we never sit down, ever.
Thank you so much, Boni. Cyprian, as you wind up, what are your closing remarks looking at issues to do with governance? Because it doesn't end with the president. It also trickled down to our counties.
Thank you very much. I want to say that there are 4 things that the Gen Z Occupy movement wants changed in Kenya. They are saying that Kenya has lost trust in institutions, transparency has collapsed, and accountability. Number 3 is that discipline has gone, and finally respect has evaporated. Those are the 4 problems that the Gen Z movement and the Occupy movement has identified. They are not just about the presidency, but you've seen the occupation even of churches. Nobody is going to be spared. What do we do going forward? The sacking and the dissolution of the cabinet by President William Ruto is not enough. It is one of the 6 things that must be done. And just allow me to say what the 6 things are that Ruto must do before we can go back to the budget and the finance bill. The first thing was to sack cabinet. The second thing is that he must overhaul, change the leadership of parliament. There's even a court case I've seen to dissolve parliament because it is not constitutionally constituted. Number 3 is that we, and I hope Faith can hear me on this, Faith, we must establish a judicial commission of inquiry that tells us what happened during the peaceful protests. Who killed the protesters? Who burnt police vehicles? Who torched the county government offices from Embu to Nairobi to Kikuyu, assemblies all over the country? A judicial commission of inquiry is a must. Number 4 is that all the security chiefs, Koome, Bungei, but we are not talking about the Director General of DCI. That is the man who's killing our people. That's the man who is abducting our people, Amin. Why are people not talking about Amin? You were at Amin's office, he told you that he is not the one abducting, but he does not know who's abducting. So he must, that's number 4, and is extremely important. Number 5 is that the military must be removed from the streets by going back to Parliament and rescinding the instrument that brought them to the street. Number 6 is that we must be allowed to recall all the members of Parliament who said yes. They must be recalled. They must be recalled. After we do those 6 things, the list of 14 irreducible minimums will kick in. Number 1 is that CDF must go. We are saying that we must close down all the offices that are chewing up our money. The Appropriations Act, the budget which Ruto passed into law, must be completely dissolved. We have rejected the finance bill, but we allowed him to pass his appropriations. So he is not worried. He has money and he has been allowed to spend. So he is not having problems. We must deal with the Appropriations Act. So going forward, the pressure must not be reduced. The pressure must be increased until everything is achieved that is on the list of the things that Ruto must do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my panelists. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. There is another set of panel.
And Minocha has kept saying women. So many women, during the first week of the riots, you saw how many women came out, and young women, and it's sad that they've gone behind so in many revolutions or springs, after a revolution, women are put behind and then men lead. So we must not allow that. There's some discussion I'm seeing on Twitter, let's get rid of women reps. We have a quality problem for men and for women. It's not unique to women, right? We have a serious quality problem. Of course, if most of the KK members of Parliament, it was business partners, people who invested in KK, even I'm sure some of the Azimio, but KK is where we have really problematic members of Parliament. So it is not, it's a quality problem for men and women. And please stop singling women out as they were not, we just have a bad Parliament. And it is now for us, many of us, don't forget, run for politics. Yes. Politics, if it's 2027 or it's after we recall them, don't just sit there. As you do the activism, you also register yourself, get into we need a political party of this movement. Because without that, those are the instruments of getting into power. We will just be talking and then so we need all these activists, and let's own that activism and take that. Can you imagine if we all went into government? We would change everything. So the pressure must not stop. That's what I would like to say.
A round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your insights there. Asante sana. Thank you so much. DJ, as we transit, a little bit of music. I'm being told we are getting into another round with a list of panelists as well. So you can leave the stage. Thank you so much. We have Tess Wavinya from...
As you call them, you call the IPOA Commission.
Yeah.
Oh, she's already
here. Yes. On this round, we have Tess Wavinya from LSK Council. Please take the stage.
Have a youth that, if not properly handled, can be a time bomb that can blow this country to pieces.
Is Tess in the house? Thank you so much. And then we have Joshua Okayo. He is one of the victims that were abducted, and he is a student leader from Kenya School of Law. Please take a seat. To make the conversations more interesting, we have Commissioner Fatima Mohammed from IPOA. Thank you, ma'am. Please. And lastly, we have Diana Gishengo from Okwa Uchumi. Kindly, if we could have you on stage. So on this session, we're just going to look at what next for the victims. What are some of the legal instruments there is for them to institute so that they can be able to get reparations for some of the atrocities that were meted on them. So thank you so much. Do we have Diana? Diana, please, if we may have you. Thank you so much. So we'll begin from Joshua, just from a victim perspective, having gone through the ordeal. What do you think will justify some of the atrocities that were meted against you?
Thank you. Nothing will justify the atrocities meted against me. And all those other people, the young people who were abducted, some of whom have since been found alive, but others who have been sadly found dead. Nothing justifies such actions. So yeah, nothing.
Okay. What are your first actions that you would like to get out of the way if you had that opportunity to institute legal actions?
Mm-hmm. Really, I don't have the opportunity to institute legal actions. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, and the leadership of Faith, President. You know, so many advocates have come forward to help, to support, and they are passionately seeking justice for myself and all those others who've gone through what I went through, maybe worse. And yeah, number one is we need to institute legal charges against individuals who are controlling the police force, those who are controlling the NIS, the DCI, Director General. I had Mr. Nyamwamu talking about the same. And after that, the victims also need to be compensated for all that they've gone through. Mm-hmm. And all that is going to be done in due course. I want to assure you that the team, the legal team at the LSK and all other well-wishers are up to speed, and this is what we would like to see happen. Number one, criminal charges against individuals. Number two, civil charges against, civil, civil matters against the government and those involved, so that then we don't just see them serving sentences, if at all they will. I hope they do. But then ultimately, we also get to get back to our previous state of physical and mental state.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Tess, moving to you. As a body, LSK, are you looking forward to possibly institute legal actions? And what are some of the support that you're already giving to these particular victims of police brutality? Because there was issues of psychological trauma, especially for the victims that underwent the brutality. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, allow me first to state that in our country, we have the Constitution. And in the Constitution, it gives guidelines on how the government is supposed to work from the powers that has been delegated by the people. They do not have the sovereign powers. And it's also from there that such bodies like LSK are formed to keep checks and balance to the government. Now, as you've asked me, what are the measures that have been taken? As LSK, our first mandate is to uphold the rule of law. When you're upholding the rule of law, we're reminding the government, the current regime, which is trying to do and act on its draconian acts, that justice is our shield and defender. And it is not a cloistered virtue. And that's why we called upon our young members to go on the streets pro bono, to live billable hours, so that we help those whom were peacefully assembling to protest and they were arrested, abducted and taken to police station or detained in places we don't know. We do not have the much capacity to take them to psychological places, but we've been able to partner with other people, with NGOs, with human rights organizations, with psychiatrical facilities, so that we be able to enable them to get such help. Because we are not in normal times anymore. We are in abnormalities. Someone goes to the street to protest, they don't go home, their families are scared, they don't even know where their child has gone to. When you call the phone, no one answers. A good example, the KSL student seated on my left. We got information of where he was found in Moranga. I was the key person to get that information. And it was so unfortunate that he couldn't even comprehend or even want to speak. So it's only God who knows what he went through. And this government does not even care about that. So the measures that you're taking as LSK is you're reminding the government to uphold the rule of law, because justice is not negotiable. Stop abducting people. Why are you hiding them? If you're doing the right thing, you will not be abducting us, you will not be hiding us, you will not be detaining us, you will not be killing us like Denzel. So we are calling upon all wishers, especially these organizations that has such facilities. We've been able to partner with several that are helping them to go through that trauma process so that they may try to get rid out of it. But as we all know, trauma does not end. Something can trigger it at any moment. But our president does not care. He thinks he runs Kenya, and Kenya is not his. We need to remind him, as a Kenyan, he needs to ask himself, what are you doing for your country? And not what the country will do for you. And he is destroying our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess, for that. Commissioner Fatima Mohammed, thank you so much for joining this panel. Previously, from our discussions, one of the panelists actually pointed out that IPOA is failing on its job to do its mandate, that is to oversight. From your perspective, in light to the process that has happened, what is IPOA doing?
Thank you very much, and for giving us this opportunity to come and highlight exactly what we are doing. First, we have to understand the mandate of IPOA. The mandate of IPOA is to oversight the police in holding it accountable and doing its work. Two, and to ensure professionalism in police work, and to handle how to handle complaints independently. That's a clear mandate of IPOA. What are our functions? One is to investigate police killings and police causing serious injuries, and that's where we are at this particular time. And for these cases that now we have, since the protests have started, I just want to speak about that one right now. That's what is at stake right now, is we're in the process of investigating and recommending to the DPP. One, it's a legal process, and once it's a legal process, you'll need evidence, you'll need statements, because when you send it to the DPP, what will he ask you for? He'll ask for all the evidence, for him to take it to court, for it to be sustained. Already we are asking for people to come forward, give us statements, so that when we go to the DPP, he has something to take to the courts. Otherwise, if we take things that we just speak from the social media here and there, it doesn't help us. We really appreciate you coming to us. If you'd come to us, we record statements. Then, you know, that will give us basis for our prosecution, because we don't have powers for prosecution. We don't have powers to arrest. I know we've been asked, how come we are not arresting the police officers? We don't have the powers to arrest. Ours is to give recommendation and give disciplinary cases to the National Police Service Commission to either discipline that police officer or to do that, or whatever issue that needs to be done. But as it stands right now, we are very advanced in many of our investigations, but what we are lacking is the crucial evidences that we need for prosecution. The DPP, we work together every single day, and is always asking, where is the stage, at what stage have you reached here? Now that is where we are, and we'd be asking kindly if we could have evidence from the public. Come to us, talk to us, record statements with us. Then we can have a credible case to hand. Otherwise, what we are getting, social media from here and there, we go out of our own motion because we have the powers out of our own motion to go out and investigate and call upon you, come, this is what you have said, get it done, let's do this, let's do that. Then it's not able to happen. So with the basis of that, we are not able to move forward. Yeah.
Before I come to you, Diana, sticking to Commissioner Fatma, yes. Do you have mechanisms where you actually ensure that those that come forward are actually protected? Yes. Because with issues to do with abduction, I mean, the trust that is there can be actually very little.
We really try as much as possible to hide the identity of the staff or whoever witnesses we have. Unfortunately, we have the issue of witness protection. Now we have to liaise with the Witness Protection Agency. That's another agency we have to cooperate with. Because it reaches a stage that one of our main challenges we have is resources. Even for protection of witnesses. Well, we try whichever cases we have. We have prosecuted quite a number of cases from the police and got quite a number of convictions. Mm-hmm. But as at now, that is what we really need. And coming here, I said now this is the right forum to come and make appeal to the public and tell them that for us to move forward, we need evidence. We need, of course, we know, we have seen what we have seen on the clips, and then somebody's asking me, what evidence do you need? You have seen the clips, but is that admissible in court?
Diana, picking up from what Commissioner Fatma has just finished off saying, do you think there is enough evidence actually for IPOA to institute investigations against the police brutality? And what do you think?
Thank you very much. I know I came as Oko Uchumi to work on finance, but IPOA, and I've come after commissioner, no, member, right? Member. In IPOA, it is members. The Independent Police Oversight Authority has no commissioners. It has members. And it was a very deliberate thing in the language. It was very different from Article 59 commissions. It was Independent Police Oversight Authority. It had independent members. In the last composition of the membership, they declined government vehicles because of how much they needed to be impartial. According to the Act, they have powers to first and foremost monitor, not investigate, monitor. So as Gen Zs and Kenyans are reporting about incidences of police brutality, IPOA has a legal mandate to monitor. We ought to have seen their statements before anybody else. They have full powers to investigate and move straight into a judicial inquest. Where is the inquest so far? Bodies are lying in mortuaries with police bullets. What else do you need? What else do you need? People are shot broadly and recorded on video. Journalists, local and international ones, ask, give us the video. They are given. IPOA, what do you want? Aren't you complacent in this particular situation? I think at this particular moment, not just IPOA, all independent bodies must know they act on behalf of the people, not the president.
Mm-hmm.
The hesitation we are seeing is because of the co-option of IPOA by the executive. Trying to please NPS. You do not refer cases to NPS. You make final recommendations. Come to us to help you. We the people, you have seen we are powerful, to help you enforce your findings. I wish IPOA was here in the morning when we had narrations of people who can't sleep because they were tortured, leave alone the ones who are dead. We are here speaking, we don't know whether we'll be tortured again. Even within the police service, they are willing to speak because they are our children. There are very many people who are looking for their children. Bodies have been found in Mukuru. These are trends. By the time the president says there are no extrajudicial execution, we expect IPOA to give us trends. Pole Mami, and we hear you. I hope those tears, IPOA, you use our taxes. It must change.
Thank you so much, Diana. Coming on from a law perspective.
Respond to her, please.
You want to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Diana. I mean, I understand and I feel the pain. True. But what we need is, you have said it here, come to our offices. Let's record these things in our offices. Let's do it in the legal manner. We cannot prosecute in the public prosecution, you know, in the public space. We need it done in the right manner. And that's the only way. Diana, and I feel what you are telling us completely. Come to our offices. Let's work together like that. Let's have even witness protecting in all our ways how we can handle this matter. We feel the pain, and we know no one is immune in this process. Today I'm in IPOA, tomorrow I am not. Our children are all outside there, all of them. So we cannot say this is one issue that we can ignore. We cannot. We need help. We need all kind of evidence that we can have, so we can push this issue forward. We are all together in this. There is no way that I'm saying that it doesn't happen to anybody. It's all of us inside this thing. And nobody is going to say that we are safe from it. So what we really need, let's come together, let's work together, let's push this agenda forward. We have shortage of resources in our IPOA. We are overstretched. We cannot be in every sector, but if we partner with social justice centers, if we justice with everything else, we'll be able to move forward. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Fatma. Coming back to Tess, if I may have your attention, Diana mentioned an inquest, and there is the issue of reparations. Is it enough for people that were tortured and even experienced the impact and the effect of the protest to get justice? Is it enough?
Thank you very much. It is not enough because it is not being done. If I may retaliate, the mission of IPOA to conduct impartial and independent investigations, inspections, audits and monitoring of the National Police Service to prevent impunity and enhance professionalism in the interest of the public. We the people, the sovereign of this country is we the people. When that inquest was supposed to be done, they are not doing it. They are telling us to go to their offices. We are in an era of social media. We are not in 1972, where when someone is brutally killed, abducted by the police, it cannot be seen out there. Bodies are being found everywhere. Today, bodies have been found at Mukurwa. Are they investigating? Are they acting suo moto? Yet it is an independent body that can act suo moto to process those inquests. Are they doing that? She's saying that they don't have the budget. Have they come to the Mwananchi to tell us that? Are they waiting that when we need them, it's when they come and tell us that failure? Why are they not doing what they're supposed to do? It is not enough until it is done.
Thank you so much. Joshua, coming to you, you are a victim. What support do you need, not only you, but also from your family, because they experience the whole ordeal, even as you get abducted. what do you think are the initial supports that you need, you and your immediate family members?
Thank you. I think before I get to the question as to what support I need, myself as an individual and the family, let me speak to this issue just a little bit. A few days before we got to Thursday, the second biggest protest, so many MPs in Parliament were saying that these are photoshopped, photos have been photoshopped and these are not real figures, these are not real protesters. These are just, young people young children. They were actually calling us kids from middle-class families with Uber and iPhones and everything. Until they saw the real deal on Tuesday, the 25th of June. So there's that illusion at IPOA. They're still imagining that these abductions are not real. They're still imagining that, these people go missing and then they are found dead or some found tortured. These are just jokes, all right? Even with the bullets in people's bodies, they still think this is a joke. Or they think there's a special group of people somewhere that are not the police or that are not being, patronized by the government that are doing these killings. So the IPOA live or they are working, I don't know whether they're working really, under an illusion that these are false abductions, these are false killings, and probably I think in their heads they think no one has been killed so far by the police. Because they want the victims, all right, to present evidence. They want the victims to come and report. How can a dead person come and report at IPOA? How can a dead person actually come to you to report? Today I've seen they've given about 14 names. I've seen the post they made about 14 names calling us to, I think I was one of them, to go and report at IPOA. Did you even mind that maybe some of us are not walking? I remember the first day I could not walk. When I was picked, I could not walk. I could not speak. All right? Or are you going to wait until all of us are fine, can speak, can walk, so that you start when everything is all cool and now you can hide behind all that calmness? I think it's time we just call them out. And all of them should go out, they should go home. Now as to the support, and I don't want to speak just for myself. I am very alive to the fact that most of the abductees have not come out to speak, which I understand. I also have a right. I should have been resting somewhere on the bed and trying to, to heal. Right now, someone is hugging me here, and someone can't hug you because your body is not yours. But I'm coming out because I know if no one is going to speak to this issue, then we shall be sanitizing the government by our inactions. So then it is just important that we speak. That is why some of us are coming out to speak. Not that we are okay, not that we are fine, not that we are fully healed. We are not. But because we want this in the heat of passion, when still we understand the importance of all these slogans we've been chanting, we have to come out. I am under the care of two people currently. And every once in a while they come to check on me. Sometimes I shout in the night, something I've never done before. I don't know whether I used to do, but people who used to be close to me never told me that I used to shout in the night. The very first day when I slept, well, I couldn't catch sleep, but when I went to sleep, I fought someone who was sleeping next to me. Just woke up and fought. I didn't know this was happening. They reported to me the following day. I've had serious issues of sleeping. Sometimes I just zone out. All right? So, number one is we need to be supported psychosocially. We need to, of course, I've started conversations with some counseling psychologists, but I don't think all the abductees have a pleasure of getting such people. So it is important that this is brought to the attention of everyone else, that we need to be supported by counselors, counseling psychologists, psychiatrists, and everyone else who can support us mentally. Those of us who've incurred charges in hospitals. I remember the first day when I went to the hospital, we had some charges that we incurred. And afterwards, I've been going to the hospital. I've gone to the hospital like 4 times now. Every time going for reviews, every time going for checkup. And my left arm is still not functioning. Why? Because I don't know really why, but they can't find what's up with my arm, especially the upper part of my left arm. So such things, you don't really know what's happening. Maybe we are going to the hospitals where they can't get to know what's up. If we could just afford to go to a better hospital, all right, where such things can be checked, where such scans can be taken, so that we get to understand what's happening. Some of these people will be coming forward, and you may think they are okay, they are walking, they are okay, but deep down in their bodies, they have some injuries that they cannot show you. Also, I think it's just in order that the mental torture that we've gone through, and this is not a burden I'm going to put to the general public. This is a burden I'm going to put to those who are behind the abductions and killings. May we be compensated.
Thank you, Joshua. Diana, coming to you, one of the things that I picked from Joshua is the fact that a lot of the victims are yet to come out and share their experience. And it's my belief, one of the many ways in which people begin to actually comprehend what happened to them and even begin maybe the process of healing is actually by talking. As an organization, and even as you join in the conversation, how do you think we can be able to bring out the victims to actually now share their own first account just as a way of getting that healing?
I think this forum, after this forum, we are going to see many more people speak. Because one, my experience with all these processes of extreme violence, torture over the years is people self-alienate immediately. You can't believe what happened to you. And most of the time, remember, most of them were abducted and they were blindfolded. You felt so alone. So you want to stay there. But listening to one account, so for the victims who've come today and shared their account, they have opened the door for many more to start speaking. But we will organize as many sessions of solidarity, of counseling, of listening to every victim wherever they are. And allow me to acknowledge, I don't know your name, Mami, but we feel your pain. Tabitha, we feel your pain. Tabitha clearly is looking for her child, who has been missing and took part in the peaceful protest. You can see her pain. There are very many parents whose children are missing. They don't know where to search, but you can't silence a mother who does not know where their child is. So the more we keep speaking and spotlighting these stories, we will create avenues for that. And I'm aware the social justice working group, police reform working group are creating all these spaces, and we hope we can reach out to the professional counselors group to take on this particular issue. But allow me to urge the member from IPOA. The act is very clear. IPOA acts first on its own motion. Secondly, when a complaint is filed. Please read the mood. Read the mood of the country. It is time to act on your own motion. IPOA has expansive powers. to take over any investigations around the service. They have powers to summon the IG, summon Bungei. How many bullets did you shoot? Give us the record. You have more privilege and power than any victim will ever have. And please do not go to another space and tell us to come to your office. We are taking victims to counseling rooms. We are taking them to hospitals. We can't be taking them to IPOA as well. Please, IPOA in the past, particularly during the 2017 violence in Nairobi, in Migori, in Kisumu, gave us daily updates. Of police killings, of people who are missing, of enforced disappearances. We relied on their data to infer the trends. Surely, budgets may have been slashed, technology has grown. Organizations working in this sector, including the Law Society, they have data. Reach out, cooperate. Please, you have a place in ensuring that women like Tabitha get justice and their burden is lighter. Allow me to pause there. My word is the budget.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that. If you may pick up the microphone, Commissioner Fatma, kindly, whatever Diana has brought out, you may answer as you put forward your closing remarks. The mic, kindly, the mic is not on.
Thank you, Diana. I've heard you very clearly, and the mood of the public we have had loud and clear, and we are working towards ensuring that all what we are asking is patience. And for true, I know time is not there. You're saying no, there is no time, but time is there, because at the end of the day, what do we want to achieve? We want to achieve justice. We want to achieve the person who is responsible, even if it's going to be the IG, and definitely it will be the IG, he will be held accountable. That's a must. It will take place. Maybe it might not take place today, but it will. That is one, to assure the public that we conduct very credible investigation, watertight. We want, when you take to the DPP, he doesn't return it back to us. He doesn't say, oh, go fill this gap, go fill this gap. We'll come to your spaces. Please open up to us. When we come looking for you, don't hide yourself. Don't say, no, I'm not going to take. And we want to assure you very clearly that for sure, we will protect your identities in terms of witnesses. I know you're saying victims are dead, they can't speak, but they have relatives. They have, and we don't want to have dead people, to be honest. We are looking for a process that we all inclusive. You all support IPOA. IPOA needs the public support in terms of getting funding, in terms of getting all the issues that are needed for us to ensure that justice is served. It will be served. Daily updates we find like that. If you release everyday statements, people will like, this is too much now. But we give you, since these protests have started, we have been releasing quarterly. I mean, every other week we've been saying, these are the number of cases we have. Up to our record, we have up to 39 dead. There could be more. We're asking for more space, for more information. We will come to you. If you feel that you cannot come to our office, Diana, we are ready to come to your to the social justice centers. We have our working MOU with LSK, very clear. We have signed one, so that we can cooperate. We are looking for cooperation with members of the public. We are looking with cooperation for any institution, civil society. We have gone to Bunge ourselves, asking for more funds, more powers, because we are very limited. You're saying we have powers, yes, but it's up to a certain limit. We hand over the files to National Police Service Commission for disciplinary. We hand over the files to the Director of Public Prosecution to prosecute. Then he's the one to take it to the judges. But if we can have it ourselves, those prosecutorial powers, you'll tell me, okay, what else are you reading for? You go direct to the judges. Judicial inquest of inquiry, we've asked for it from the time of the Riviera bodies that happened. We have not kept quiet, and we are not sleeping on the job. What we need is cooperation from the public. We want patience from the public. I know you'd want answers immediately. You want us to arrest so and so. We have no powers to arrest, but we are asking for every information. We write to the IG on a daily basis to ask to give us, like when we are monitoring, when we say we monitor police operations, we monitor and investigate police operations. And when you investigate, you monitor the operations, you ask them to give us the deployment. Who was on that street? Who was on that, the deployment for the officers that were taken in that protest on that day? So those are the things we are looking for. Here we're asking to come to us. We also have a psychosocial support system that can help